I am textile designer Meredith Wood. I began researching into better fabrics and dyes for my own screen printing practice at the end of last year.
Can I begin by asking you, what are the problems with the textiles we're currently using?
All synthetic fibres are plastic and often made from non-renewable oil resources. They leach microplastics into waterways and oceans every single time we wash our clothes, becoming the biggest contributor to microplastic pollution. It's currently impossible to get rid of microplastics once they are in our ocean. They are eaten by fish, increase in toxicity through bioaccumulation, and then get eaten by us. Worryingly, the effects on the human body are still largely unknown.
Are there any alternatives that are currently being used?
Yeah, so bioplastics can biodegrade in comparison to traditional plastics which don't. Because bioplastic is biodegradable, it does not shed microplastics in the same way as synthetic clothing. Bioplastics are similar to regular plastics in their structure, but are extracted from organic material instead of crude oil. I've been making mine with vegetable glycerin, water, and agar-agar, which is algae. It's important to find algae as locally as possible to reduce carbon emissions from transporting it. Some regular plastics are recyclable, so I think recycling the plastic that we already have and then making more with bioplastic could be a really good route forward. We need to stop using non-renewable resources to make plastic now, especially when it's not recyclable plastic.
So, what was the initial inspiration behind your project?
My research for this project began after moving to London and noticing the lower air quality. Carbon pollution is a huge issue worldwide, especially in concentrated urban areas, and many designers are turning to nature to find solutions. Continuing my research into carbon, I found that there's certain types of bioplastic that can take carbon dioxide out of the air, which are still being developed. When designing with sustainability in mind, the whole life cycle of what you're making needs to be considered. I experimented with how my samples may break down at the end of their life.
So, is it possible to produce these materials for garments on an industrial scale?
One of the main problems with the fashion industry is the amount that it's producing. There isn't one material that will make fashion environmentally friendly if it's produced on the same scale. As consumers, we need to be part of that change. We simply cannot demand the amount of clothes we do. So I wouldn't necessarily picture my work being sold on an industrial scale. I think when us as consumers start requesting sustainability as something that we want from brands, that's when we start actually getting it. Small local brands can make a big difference if consumers buy into them. And this is something I've seen a lot of during lockdown. It's really shown that you can use the materials that are around you and you don't need to fly in things from halfway across the world. And consumers can be such a big part of this because they can feel like they're actively combating climate change with these new materials that can take carbon out of the air.
What do you think are the lessons fashion needs to learn and take forward coming out of lockdown?
I think it's extremely important for designers to understand the implications of what we are making. Many of the practices that we're taught as normal industry practices are extremely harmful and have caused devastation to both people and the environment. In order for this to change, pressure needs to come from us as consumers. If textile designers don't even know the full implications of what they're making, then how are regular consumers supposed to know that their clothes are leaching microplastics into the oceans? The fashion and textile industry in general is responsible for so many of these environmental issues that we do have. So kind of beyond this, it's also about working out how we can do better. The materials that we're using at the moment are not working, so we need to find better solutions for them anyway. Personally, I think looking to nature is a really good way of doing that. What if fashion could go beyond no longer harming the environment, but actually be beneficial? Because that's when we start to see solutions rather than adding to the problem.